When in Korea, you have to try Jjajang Myun. It's actually Korean fusion Chinese food, but tasty all the same. I'm at Hongdae Station Exit 9, famous meeting point in Hongdae, actually one of the busiest subway exits in all of Seoul. From here, you're close to everything: shopping, coffee shops, buskers, and other street entertainers, and some of the most popular eateries in Korea, especially for students on a budget. And one of the most popular destinations for Jjajang Myun in this area is none other than Banjum, which doesn't have a lot of items on their menu, but you can be sure that everything you order is reasonably priced and delicious, especially when considering the value you get here. The owner of this chain of restaurants is Baek Jung-won. He's on TV everywhere, sometimes teaching recipes, sometimes saving restaurants from disasters like kitchen nightmares. This restaurant is usually packed at lunch and dinner time, but I've come just before their break in between, so I have the whole place to myself. This is Banjum, one of the most famous Korean-style Chinese restaurants that you're going to find in Korea. They're famous for a couple of things, most notably their black bean noodles dish, also known as Jjajang Myun. They're also very famous for their Jjambong, which is a spicy seafood noodle dish. I actually don't like that very much, but to be totally honest, this is the one place that I'll eat it. But today, I'm actually going to introduce you to their black bean noodle dish known as Jjajang Myun. So as you take a look, you can see these typical noodles. Nothing really special about that, but it's this sauce that really makes everything. It's a black bean sauce. There's a little bit of sugar that goes in here as well. Some cabbage that you'll find, as well as some pork, some onions, and of course some peas. So it's a interesting mix that you'll see in here, but it's kind of, when you bring it all together, the flavor of this sauce really makes this dish great. In certain variations of this dish, you'll see seafood versions where there's squid, perhaps some shrimp, sometimes mussels or other things. I personally like it with the pork myself, but yeah, there definitely are seafood versions and vegetarian versions as well. All right, let's dig in and take a taste. Actually, before we dig in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this up a little bit, and you'll see what it looks like after I've mixed it. Okay, so once you mix up all the noodles, then this is kind of what it's gonna look like. You want to get sauce on every strand of noodles so you're not eating something that's, gonna be plain. And when you're eating this, the typical side dish is these radishes here. It's a pickled yellow radish, or daikon radish. You'll find these in Japan as well. And what I like about this place is that they slice this paper thin, I'd say razor thin. See how flimsy it is? That's what really makes this taste great. And I think it's one of the best things about the meal here is these go so well with the actual noodles as well. Let's dig in and take a look. I might just have to slurp this.
Oh yeah. Delicious. Oh. Ooh.
So obviously with the black bean, it's a very savory flavor, but there's a little bit, not a lot, just a hint of sugar put in there, so it's slightly sweet as well. when you're eating these noodles, you're not actually supposed to cut it with your teeth. Much like ramen noodles, you're supposed to slurp it up and really get all that sauce. But you can see I'm wearing white sleeves today. I do have a gray vest, but it could get really messy on my clothes if I were to slurp this all together. I'm all out of my pickled radishes, also known as tamuji, by the way. In Japan, they call it takgwang, but in Korea, we call this tamuji. I'm all out, but over here, it's unlimited, but you gotta go get it yourself. Okay, I'm reloaded on my tamuji. And by the way, I forgot to show you this before. Before you eat the tamuji, it's usually in vinegar, but what we usually do is when we're getting a new batch of tamuji, you're gonna add a little bit of vinegar on it just to freshen it up. These paper thin slices. Look at how thin that is. See how flimsy it is. Crunchy, flimsy, very sour with the vinegar, flavorful. Really a perfect complement for the savory noodles as well. Having that sourness and the crunch, it's perfect. By the way, if you're like me and you're wearing white and you don't want to get it dirty, you can also borrow an apron from here. So you put this on. One more line of protection so that your clothes aren't going to get wet. Nothing you can do or get dirty. Can't do anything about the sleeves, but you know, you'll at least help at staying clean. By the way, so this is just basically raw onion. Okay. You just dip this in the black bean paste and you're gonna eat it like so. I mean, with the paste, it really takes away a little bit of the bite that the onion has, but I actually just prefer the tamuji, the yellow radish, compared to the raw onions with the black bean sauce. Black bean paste, I should say. So 홍콩반점 is probably the most famous Korean Chinese restaurant in Korea, I would think. I'm guessing they probably have the most locations or the most franchises. And one of the reasons is the owner, Baek Jong-won, is really famous, and part of the reason because of the success of this restaurant. But he has a variety of other restaurants, including meat places, 닭갈비 places. Now he has his own coffee chain that's competing with Starbucks as well. So he's quite famous for being a restaurateur, not necessarily like a gourmet Michelin star level, but in terms of probably more. I don't want to compare it to McDonald's because it probably doesn't do it justice, but I mean, these are cheap. A normal bowl of Jjajang Myun here is 4,500 won, so maybe like $4 US. This is actually an extra large size for an extra 1,000 won. So an extra buck, you get not quite double the size, but you know, at least 1.5 times bigger. So 5,500 won, you're looking at about $5 for this meal that I've got here, and it's plenty to feed, you know, a hungry person. You know, in Korea, it really is the land of food delivery, because when I first came to Korea in 2000, you could order a bowl of Jjajang Myun for about 3,000 won, and the guy would deliver it to you on his motorcycle. You don't have to pay any tip or tax, you're just paying 3,000 won, and after you finish eating, you leave the bowl outside your door, because it's like, you know, a plastic bowl that they bring it in rather than a one-time use styrofoam. And the guy will actually ride back and pick up the bowl to take back. So he's coming to your place twice. You're paying 3,000 won, I mean less than $3 US,
for a bowl of noodles. Just ridiculous. As for the owner, Baek Jong-won, I mentioned that he's quite famous for his restaurants, his franchise of restaurants. He's probably got at least 30 or 40 of these in Seoul. Probably at least that many coffee shops, and in terms of meat restaurants, probably like at least 20 or 30 in the Seoul area. What really launched him into the stratosphere of restauranting, actually, because back in the day there weren't as many of these, but he married a celebrity, probably at least 10 or 12 years his junior. And when he married her, then it really brought him into the spotlight of being a celebrity chef in the era when Korea really didn't have celebrity chefs. They weren't as big on, restaurants and celebrity chefs back then. It was just, just restaurants here and there. So you could argue that he was one of the first celebrity chefs in Korea, partially because his restaurants were successful, but also partially because he married a female celebrity. And I remember back in the day when I first came to Korea, the first store of his that I used to frequent actually wasn't a restaurant. He had what we call a pocha. A pocha is a tent bar, but it's usually like an after-hours drinking establishment. And after going to bars or clubs in Korea, he owned a tent bar called Hanshin Pocha, and that was in the Nonyeon-dong area in the rich Gangnam area. So after the bars and clubs closed in Gangnam, a lot of people would go to Hanshin Pocha as their kind of after-hours place. And that was one of the places that every time you went there, it was packed, often needed to wait in line in order to get in. And to be totally honest, I mean, I don't know if the food was that great, but there was drinking there, and it was just the place to be. And I remember going there quite a bit, and so I knew who this person was and that he did own other restaurants, but I was more, I knew him more for that place than this. And he's still, he's since established franchises of Hanshin Pocha as well in every major drinking neighborhood with, an army of these restaurants and other restaurants. I mean, he's just got so many different restaurants. I can't count it or name it all right now. Maybe I'll post it up when I research what other franchises he has, but it's ridiculous how much he's making. And now he's on TV everywhere on various cooking shows. I mean, you literally can't channel surf on TV 24 hours a day without seeing his face on some channel somewhere. That's how much he's branched out, not just in restauranting, but on TV as well as a celebrity chef. Yeah, so other things on the menu, as I mentioned, he's got the Jjambong, which is the spicy seafood noodles, and another favorite dish that he's got here is also sweet and sour pork. And it's a different version from the type you might be accustomed to eating with the flour-based. Yeah, rather than it being flour-based, it's actually rice-based. It's a little bit chewier, it's crispy, but it's chewier as well, and quite tasty. I'll have to order that the next time I come around and show you what that's like as well, because it is really quite tasty. Unfortunately, it comes in a big size, too much for me to eat alone. Maybe I'll come with my wife next time to show you their sweet and sour pork dish. Well, that was delicious. I hope you enjoyed this video, and definitely check this place out. I'll leave a link to the location of this particular place, which is in Hongdae. But remember, there's actually 30 or 40 of these at least in Seoul, probably across the country. I wouldn't be surprised if there's over 100 locations. Like I said, it's almost like the McDonald's of Korea in that sense of just, its outreach of how many of these there are just about anywhere in any neighborhood in Korea. And the taste, you can't go wrong for that price point and the quality of it as well, because there's lots of places that make this dish, but this place, I don't know if I'm going to say that it's the best Jjajang Myun I've ever had in my life, but I will say that you're getting good quality when you come to this place. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give me a big thumbs up, smash that like button as they like to say, and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification so that you're up to date the next time I post another video. Thanks for watching.